Hi, welcome to Future Fast. And for those of you who are here for the first time, obviously you've missed two very interesting parts of our conversation with Sarang, and I urge you to look them up both, and it gives you some connection to understand where he's coming from in his prediction. And for the rest of you, thank you, and I'm sure you're enjoying it, and as well as sharing it. And if any of you have been coming here and listening to but not yet subscribed, this is the time to click on the subscription button. And like always, we bring some really very interesting and great people to have conversation with and also get their perspective on the future. With that, we'll just dive straight into the conversation with Sarang. Sarang, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Future Path once again.
Thank you, Nanchunda. Thank you for having. And
Right. Well, Sarang, you did talk about quite a few things about the future, but uh, would you like to make some predictions? Where do you see something? I mean, whichever area, whether it is in your industry or otherwise.
um, I, I'm going to say, look, I mean, I'm not in that space to start making through, but my general sense is that what we believe the extent to which AI is going to disrupt, and I'm going to talk about my industry, I don't think it's going to disrupt. It's going to accelerate the growth of the industry. So disruption, it's not going to pivot. So it's going to accelerate the industry. What it's going to do is, and let me explain what I mean by that. The way a consumer is going to shop and buy and spend is not going to be defined by the way the company says it, the brand says it. It's going to be defined by the way the ecosystem says it. That's the difference. Because the impact of, let me go to epigenetics. Let me take an example of epigenetics. I'm into a nutrition company. I sell dairy. Epigenetics is going to play a huge role in the future of R&D. But why will epigenetics come in? Because we know that the genes are getting transformed because of influence of different environmental, lifestyle, health factors. That's the ecosystem the shopper is living on. And that is going to make the choices that he or she is going to do. So that's just one example. That how is epigenetics going to influence which cookie or which milk do I buy? Because this fits my genes to transform. We know that epigenetics says switch on and switch off the gene. Now, we've not, as an industry, we've not gone there. It's too far. But thus, which means that it's going to become personalization. And personalization to the extent. There is an experiment that's been done by an insurance company, I wouldn't name which one. It's at a very small scale, where you will have a chip in your body, which is reading like your BMW car chip and tells you, which directly connects to your insurance premium, but it also connects to what's good for you. That's one of the angles of increasing your longevity. Now that person is going to start making decisions, what's best for me. So how will our industry create that level of personalization? With such, we talk about billions of packs being produced on a monthly basis. How do you, and then you have a 7 to 8 billion population. How do you create that mix of personalization and creating that? That's where the future is going to be. And especially,
yeah, go ahead.
No, because we are, as an industry, especially FMCG and foods, is the most sensitive because it goes into the body. And the more of every consumer is going to become savvy about it, that this is what I go is, this is what is unique to me. Then do I have a solution that is as unique outside that works for me? And that's That's going to be the world that we will all see. It's already happening. I mean, there are a few companies, including ourselves. We're all exploring this world, but I don't think so anybody has commercialized it as yet at a large scale.
But what happens to craving, right? You as an FMCG, I mean, most FMCG companies, in fact, your marketing efforts are always about tapping into human craving, right? Trigger that craving for this particular food or and associate it from a point of brand recall. So if everything becomes so personalized, what is good for me, but what happens to the craving part of it, which is not necessarily what is good, it is just that I like it. It may not be good for me. So how will
No,
that get addressed?
that will always stay. Look, that will always stay. I mean, uh, the element of individual making a decision which is good for me or not good for me, and your organoleptics and your psycho elements taking over your physio elements in terms of decision making. What I'm saying is, if you take the Maslow's theory, the world was evolving upwards. The world was moving more. So if you take any branch, the solution was going upwards from basic all the way to your esteem. What I'm saying is that with this, it will go back to basics first. But basic will become for me, my basic need. It's not about, so just to give you a simple example, which I say, at least in my industry, we are not there to fill the body, fill the stomach. We are here to fuel the body. So that's a difference. Filling the stomach is your basic necessity. And then you had your aspirations. But now it comes back to what's right for me to fuel my body. And my needs may be very different. And so one of the areas that food, FMCG, epigenetics, personalization, that mix will play a role. Choices will be made. And how does us as an industry deal with that is going to be a solution. So I don't think there is any large food FMCG company which is not putting R&D research into it. Everybody is looking at it from a point of view in different scale and size. How it will transform and how it will transit out into the market, we'll have to see. But that's my prediction. Personalization based on, to some extent, epigenetics is something that will be for the future, because that's where the personalization will be.
Well, as a closing remark, do you want to give some advice to? So we have a lot of startup founders following it as well. So do you want to give some direction that they could look at as a line of opportunity? Like epigenetics is one, obviously, is what you believe is an area, but it's a strong play for large enterprises, right? It demands a lot of R&D. So anything for startups that you can suggest, advice?
Sure. I'll say one thing, and I'll refer it back to my industry. Look, I'm going to stick with what I understand. I'm going to go back to how does an FMCG work? FMCG works on physical availability and mental availability. Today, mental availability has become easier. Why? Because you have digital, you have platforms, but physical availability is getting more and more difficult and expensive. It is ruled by larger multinationals or larger conglomerates. But consumers are looking for more and more options. So cost of entry on physical availability for smaller organizations is a huge opportunity. Give you a simple example, and that probably will explain. Walk into a grocery store in India, small grocery store. 500 SKUs is what that guy can keep. Out of which, if you take Pareto's theory, top 10 FMCGs will be taking 80% of the SKUs. But if linking back to personalization, linking back to innovative solutions, all of that is coming in. But that's where the business happens. There are 20 million outlets like these, or 25 million outlets like this in India, or probably 2 million outlets like this in Philippines. How do you make it reach? And that will open the doors for many of them, because the cost of entry in here slows down innovations from smaller companies to come into the market. That's where I guess solutions of leveraging technology can play a big role. Because not everybody can go back and say, I'm going to invest in 500,000 salesmen, put it on the field, get 50 distributors, put the trucks behind it. That's an investment. And thus it gets compromised in terms of availability. And then it's a chicken and egg. How much do you invest in your marketing? Because you have only so much of physical availability. So that's where the opportunity is for the new entrants to come in the market.
Right.
And I guess that, especially in emerging markets. And this channel, which we call general trade, grocery, whatever we call it, it's here to stay and only grow.
Wonderful. I remember back in 2001, the media was all about the end of the grocery store.
It's only growing. It's only growing, and it will continue to grow.
Right. Right. Thank you. I mean, personally, I like to hear that because I've always liked to see the small ones thrive. So it's good to hear from you, who's part of the larger ecosystem, to say that this is going to thrive. So because the world was at least multiple times they tried killing it. Media said it's the end of it when the large format retail stores came in. They said it's the end of it when the e-commerce boom happened. And despite all these things, you still say that this is going to thrive. I think that's, in fact, though you didn't make that as a prediction, I think I regard that prediction much higher. Right. Thank you so much, Tarang. And
Thank you very much.
I would like to ask the listeners and audience to follow you. The link is below in the podcast. Do follow some great work and uh, the kind of experience he brings across the different geographies. So, and also the thought process, you heard it, so you know it better. And do share it across with all your network. And once again, Sarang, thank you so much for making time to be with us and share your journey. And very, very beautiful insight from your industry, and as well as with that rich experience on leadership as well, which is great. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Nanchanda. All the best and future fast.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Take care.
And yeah,
See you.
lastly,
Bye.
all of you, those who have missed following, subscribe to it right away. Thank you again.